Welcome back to the Elias Makos Show. Now, a new report is highlighting the best practices if you want to learn French in Quebec. And boy, there are a lot of people that want to learn French in Quebec, want to develop their skills, want to get a little bit better in French at times. And then, of course, you think of newcomers to Quebec that want to learn the language. But more work needs to be done to improve services offered in the province. Now, this report follows the government's launch of its Francisization Quebec web portal, and it serves as a guide for developing French language training that would actually benefit the Anglophone community, which is currently clamoring for more resources. With more on this, let's go to Nicholas Salter, Executive Director of the Provincial Employment Roundtable. They directed this study. Nicholas, welcome to the show.
Great to be here.
So let's talk about what, in light of the fact that the Quebec government just launched this portal, and I've spent some time this morning going to that portal, and I guess I've got some mixed results here. What is the situation for, Anglophones in this province that want to learn French?
Yeah, so this report that we put out builds on some previous work that we did where we looked at the availability of programs. We did what's called an inventory, so we just kind of tried to find every single possible program in Quebec if you're an English speaker who wants to learn French with this, a particular focus on the workplace. And we found that there were problems with accessibility, so, accessing the programs was difficult. There were problems with finding them in the first place, and then eligibility was an issue for English speakers, particularly non-immigrant English speakers weren't eligible for a lot of programs. Francisation Quebec just launched, and the eligibility kind of issue has been solved in the sense that English speakers who were born here or grew up in Quebec now are eligible for a lot of these programs, but the offer of programs is still fairly limited.
Okay, let's talk about the offer then. And by the way, it's great to hear that the accessibility issue has been solved. I've gotten so many questions over the years from listeners who, are here. Maybe they moved here from another part of Canada. They don't know French that well. And they've always been like, I don't have access here. So it's good to hear that part of the equation has been solved. But let's get into the issues that still remain.
Yeah, absolutely. So the offer itself is not particularly well developed. So what we're looking for as an organization, we're focused on employment, we focus on a lot for adult learners, is that we want to see an infrastructure that will allow someone, an English speaker in Quebec who wants to improve their French. They already have some basic French, but they want to gain confidence, or they want to gain a specific professional vocabulary so they can become an engineer or a nurse or even just reorient their career. We want to see specialized courses developed for those kind of scenarios to either help people build confidence and help people transition into kind of different careers or perfect their vocabulary in specific careers so that they can flourish in the labor market here in Quebec. And the offer currently is mostly towards kind of beginner learners and is fairly limited. So we're looking to kind of develop a more complex and specialized type of programming. We want to see the government do that, helping with speakers, particularly with their employment, for which they face many challenges in Quebec.
So this is quite significant, Nicholas. We're with Nicholas Salter, Executive Director of the Provincial Employment Roundtable. And Nicholas, for what your nonprofit does, right, focusing on employment and employability challenges facing Quebec English speakers here, I mean, I guess you see that a lot. It's, Anglophones, they grew up in Quebec. They did get, some French language, maybe not enough going through the school system. They have a base. They just want to get to the level where they can be perfectly comfortable, let's say, in an office scenario.
Exactly. And our previous research, and this, the reason we focused on French language learning is because our previous research came out actually a couple of weeks ago, showed that English speakers have a 4% higher unemployment rate than Francophones in Quebec using the latest census data. And we also saw that English speakers earn, in terms of median employment income, $5,200 less than Francophones. So there's some significant employment gaps there in terms of employment rates and income rates and income gaps. And so when we asked the community, what is kind of your major barriers, time and time again, we heard, French language skills, perfecting my French language skills. And that's why we focused on kind of what are the best practices? How can we put forward kind of a vision and idea of the kind of programs we'd like to see for our community that would enable our community to kind of overcome those French language barriers and improve our employment prospects in the labor market.
Can I ask you if you feel the provincial government is listening to you and your group? I know at times it feels like Anglophones have trouble being heard by the Quebec government. On this issue, do you feel you're being heard?
Yeah, I think this issue is, we're absolutely being heard. I think there's an openness to kind of develop the kind of programs that our community needs. I think we'd like to see kind of a more rapid pace in sort of deployment and programs, especially in taking into account Bill 96. We would have loved to see kind of Francisation Quebec develop its whole kind of offer prior to kind of the implementation of Bill 96. But now we're playing catch up, right? Bill 96 has come into play, and the kind of positive silver lining of Bill 96 for our community was the creation of Francisation Quebec, the sort of one-stop shop. So that idea, the vision is a nice one, but we need to see lots of more progress, a lot more development of specialized programming for our community that meets our community's needs, and for our community to be consulted in part of that process. But there's certainly absolutely an openness, and this is a win-win for our community, I think, in terms of improving our employability, improving kind of our economic outcomes, and for the French government in terms of its goals of promoting the French language, the Quebec government in terms of its goals of promoting the French language.
Nicholas, your report makes 5 recommendations. Maybe you'd like to highlight some of the things that we already haven't touched upon here that you feel are really important.
Yeah, so the biggest one that we'd like to see, or one of the most important ones, is around work. We call work-integrated language training. So we have lots of amazing graduates graduating our CEGEPs and our universities who want to hit the labor market, and sometimes, again, they've got a basic French, but they need to build up their confidence either for job interviews or develop a specific professional vocabulary. And we think actually figuring out a way to either bridge people from school through a placement program or opportunity to learn, even actually prior to graduating, in a French workplace, and pairing that, again, with some language learning and some structure beyond, so they're supported in that French workplace, would be a great way to kind of increase the employability and the French language skills of our community. So that's one that we're particularly strong on, and we like to see investments on, and I think that would also help employers kind of address some of the labor shortage problems they have as well. It's a bit of another win-win scenario.
Any recommendations? And of course there are people that are they're exiting CEGEP or university. Those are, younger people entering the labor market. What about older Quebecers?
Yeah, so absolutely. That's a good point. So older Quebecers, we actually know our community has a high level of bilingualism in Quebec. So about 64.7% of our population identifies as bilingual. We know there are unilingual, so about 30% of our population is unilingual English speakers. And so those, that's a whole other kind of challenge for older generation in particular, who may not have had the opportunity to learn French growing up, or who have some basic French skills but are not as kind of bilingual as our youth are, because typically the English-speaking youth are more bilingual than the older generations. So we call for, especially, again, to the specialized programming, right? Programming that takes into account the reality of the person, doesn't have like a one-size-fits-all approach. So we think there should be specialized programs developed for adult learners that take in, and particularly older adult learners, that take into account kind of their reality and help them transition. If someone loses a job, for example, where they've been largely in an English workplace, now they're turning to the labor market and their French skills aren't up to par, they're going to be in a pretty hard spot. And so we don't want to make sure those people are not left behind.
And Nicholas, we're going to have to leave it there. It's great talking to you. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
That's Nicholas Salter, Executive Director of the Provincial Employment Roundtable.